All right, let's talk about Salesforce Security. The best way to think about it, really, is like you're building a digital fortress. All of your data is the treasure locked inside, and our job is to design this fortress so that only the right people get in with the right keys and only at the right time.
So here's our game plan, our blueprint for building this thing. We're going to start by understanding the pieces of the puzzle, then we'll lay a really solid foundation. After that, we'll build out the chain of command and figure out how to strategically open doors for collaboration. And finally, we'll get into what people can actually do once they're inside.
And this is the question at the heart of it all. It's this constant balancing act, right? You want to let your teams do their jobs without hitting a wall, but you also have to protect your most valuable asset, your data. If you get this wrong, you either slow everyone down or you just leave the front door wide open. So let's figure out how to get it right.
Salesforce Security is really a puzzle made up of different layers. You've got what people can see. Think of that as which rooms in the fortress they can even enter. And then you have what they can do once they're inside. We're going to build this whole security model from the ground up.
Now, here's probably the most important thing to wrap your head around. Salesforce has what's called an additive model. That means we start with everything completely locked down. Every door is bolted, every window's barred. Then, piece by piece, we start granting access. It's a one-way street. You can always give more access, but you can never use a tool to take away access that was granted by a more basic layer.
So let's start with the absolute foundation of our fortress, org-wide defaults, or as you'll always hear them called, OWDs. These are the main outer walls. They set the baseline, the most restrictive level of access for every single record before anything else even comes into play.
To put it really simply, the OWD answers one critical question. By default, who gets to see a record they don't personally own? This is, without a doubt, the most important security decision you'll make because it sets that minimum level of access for the whole system.
So right at the beginning, you have this core choice. You can go private, which is the ultimate lockdown. If you don't own it, you can't see it, period. Or you could go with something like public read-only, which is kind of like a museum. Everybody can look, but only the owner can touch. And while there are other settings, starting with the tightest security is almost always the best move.
And why is that the best move? Because it enforces this core security idea called the principle of least privilege. All that means is you give users the absolute minimum access they need to do their job and nothing more. This makes your data safe by default. It forces you to consciously make a decision to open things up when and only when it's necessary.
Okay, let's move to the next layer. We've got our walls up. Now we need to set up the chain of command inside, and we do that with the roles hierarchy. This is all about vertical sharing, how information just naturally flows up the management chain.
You know, the role hierarchy is built to look just like your company's org chart. A sales manager sits above their team of sales reps, and because of that, they automatically get to see all of their team's records, their accounts, their opportunities, whatever. It's just intuitive, it makes sense, and it's really powerful.
And the best part? The way you control this is with a single checkbox. That's it. For standard things like accounts and opportunities, Salesforce turns this on by default because, well, that's just how most businesses work. For any custom objects you build, you get to make the call.
So, OWDs lock everything down, and the role hierarchy opens things up vertically. But what about when different teams need to work together, laterally? For that, we need to hand out some special keys to open very specific doors. And in Salesforce, those keys are called sharing rules.
Sharing rules basically let you create automated exceptions to your OWDs. You can share based on who owns the record, like, say, share everything the West Coast sales team owns with the sales ops team, or you can get even smarter with criteria-based rules, like, hey, if an opportunity is over $1 million, automatically share it with the executive team, no matter who owns it.
Okay, big shift here. So far, we've been completely focused on what records people can see, but that's really only half the story. Now we need to define what users can actually do with the records they have access to, and for that, we turn to profiles and permission sets.
And this is such a critical distinction. Just because you can see a record doesn't mean you can edit it or, heaven forbid, delete it. Those are two totally different things. The first part, what you see, is record-level access. That's our OWDs and sharing roles. This second part is object-level permissions, and that is all about profiles and permission sets.
Look at how these two work together. Every single user has to have one profile. That's their foundation, their baseline set of permissions. But a user can have lots of permission sets layered on top. Think of those like special keys for specific tasks. The best practice here is to keep your profiles really lean and clean, and then use permission sets to grant any special access needed. And this brings us right back to our main theme. It doesn't matter if we're talking about who can see a record or what they can do with it, the goal is always the same: least privilege. If a user only needs to edit records, don't give them the power to delete them. It's just common sense, and it keeps your data safe and clean.
Okay, we've laid all the bricks, we've installed the doors, we've handed out the keys. Now let's just step back for a second and look at the fortress we've built. This is how all of these security layers work together, one on top of the other, in a really logical way. So here's the entire flow. We start with the tightest possible security, our OWDs. Then, the role hierarchy opens up access vertically for managers to see their team's work. Sharing roles then open things up laterally so teams can collaborate. And then, draped over all of that, you have profiles and permission sets, which decide what someone can actually do: create, edit, delete, with the records they can see.
Now, if you only take one single thing away from this explainer, please let it be this. Salesforce sharing is a one-way street. You start locked down, and every layer you add on top, role hierarchy, sharing rules, can only grant more access. It can never take it away. You can't use a sharing rule to hide something from a user that they can already see because of the OWD. It just doesn't work that way.
And that really brings us to the final question you should be asking yourself. A really well-designed security model should just feel invisible. It should empower people to do their jobs without even thinking about it. A bad one, though, just creates friction and frustration. So take a hard look at your own fortress. Is it protecting the treasure while also letting your people get their work done? Because that is the ultimate goal: